Hello, and welcome back to Coin Lady channel. Operation Choke Point 2.0 was a hotspot for discussion. If you're unfamiliar, it was basically a way for Bitcoin to stop accepting payments from inside the industry. All routes leading to and from cryptocurrencies were being sealed. Cryptocurrency banks were being shuttered. A major problem has arisen. It was brought up again not long ago by Caitlin Long of the Custodial Bank. This demonstrates that just because you're paranoid doesn't imply they aren't out to hurt you. Court records indicate that an effort was made to release Caitlin Long's crypto bank Checkpoint 2.0. We were already aware of this being true, but it is still a huge breakthrough. March, April, May, and even the summer of 2023 were heavy months for me when it came to bringing up this subject. It was crucial to keep an eye on as it was one of the main themes. I think it's critical that we examine what's really happening, the truth emphasized, now that we can access Bitcoin ETFs, because this is being brought up again. XRP is sharing the news that the Federal Reserve is going after cryptocurrency banks in Operation Choke Point 2.0, according to Brian Brooks. Brian Brooks's comment was quite significant, as is obvious to everyone who knows him. Closer inspection of this film should reveal that the financial regulatory institutions under this government have determined that cryptocurrencies pose a serious threat and should be removed from the banking system. Cryptocurrency would be widely accepted by banks if it were seen as a normal, if potentially dangerous, legitimate business. Sorry to burst your bubble, but as an OCC manager, do you truly think that they lacked the intelligence to see that a single bank couldn't possibly be the main cause of the economic collapse? That being said, there is a great deal of coordination among bank regulators. During my tenure as head of the OCC, for instance, I maintained weekly contact with the FDS chairman and the vice chairman of the Fed's First Bank Supervision Division. Our weekly hour-long meetings focused on discussing forthcoming objectives, ways to help each other, the system's reaction to our activities, and why this is not a random occurrence. I put a lot of stock in that. Once again, looking more closely, we can see that they have been working together to take Bitcoin seriously across the board. In this crucial position, Brian Brooks possesses knowledge and experience from inside and outside the sector. In addition, he speculates that something similar may happen based on his knowledge. I wouldn't be surprised if this has persisted for a while. Plus, it's no secret that big banks have been buying off or working with government officials to sabotage cryptocurrencies' development. The retail investors are the most hit since they are moving their money away from centralized institutions and into decentralized ecosystems. That is to say, they start to get concerned and worried the second you start withdrawing funds from banks and putting them into Bitcoin. In my opinion, this started happening in 2020, and it continued all the way into 2020 to 2021, including the first cycles of that year. But now that the ETFs are involved, we have to pay more attention to this. Because we have the ETFs as a consequence of Operation Choke Point 2.0 and all of its after effects, they are currently the center of attention. It seems like everyone these days thinks Bitcoin ETFs are great. That's incredible. That is going to be the subject of our discussion shortly. Tether is at a record high, ETC is down 50 index volumes, and centralized exchanges are at an all-time high of 86. I'd want to start by talking about this June essay by Will that discusses the effects of Operation Choke Point 2.0. Moving overseas and gradually delegating less power to US government ETFs will constitute the last capital and activity. But the essential thing is, as anyone who has been reading the news lately will tell you, these ETFs are getting a lot of money. It was probably close to $1 billion in just the first 3 days. Without a doubt, the goal of Operation Choke Point 2.0 was to gain control of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies by displacing native cryptocurrency startups and replacing them with large, established organizations that are loyal to the US government. Additionally, imagine if the BlackRock Spot ETF had suggested. It is widely acknowledged that that is exactly what happened. BlackRock faithful and other large Wall Street firms now have effective power over Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Regardless of Moon Lumbos's reaction, this is still the primary concern. Yes. By removing the trailblazers who have been involved with cryptocurrencies from its inception, Johnny Deaton has been sounding the alarm for quite some time. In legacy finance, Gensler is making room for the established players. Also, you're right that blockchain works similarly to Ripple and XRP. We were both familiar with one another. In this way, the real situation might be easily grasped. Looking back at the events leading up to the release of Ripple and XRP would reveal a world where traditional banks were severely undercut by decentralized digital currencies and practical utility tokens like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Actually, established banks will be pushed out of the international money transfer market. Guess who they enlisted to help them cash in on the lucrative cross-border payment market? They were not fond of that. They are sued by regulators. It took Ripple almost 2 years to win that war, but we did it in the end. But will this road of conflict ever come to a close? It seems to be going on, actually. There is ongoing legal action against Coinbase. As far as we are aware, this video will cover financial targets in relation to Binance. I'll be talking about it with JP Morgan, so that's really interesting. But first, I want to talk about the time I ran into a police officer on January 11th of this year. While a major victory has been achieved, the fight is far from done, and Operation Choke Point 2.0 will not be cancelled, according to a statement issued by Senator Warren, the leader of the anti-crypto army. This is taken from a tweet by Elizabeth Warren, in which she argued that the Bitcoin ETF decision made by the SEC government was wrong on both legal and policy grounds. Elizabeth Warren is, in my view, trying to downplay the significance of the Bitcoin ETF by using this as a front. Remember, though, that this fund is the door opener for the market-controlling Wall Street giants and the conventional financial Goliaths, who may then swoop in and claim a lot of ground. We witnessed almost $1 billion invested in the Bitcoin ETF in only 3 days. For those who believe that amount is insufficient. Within only 3 days, this has become a monumental milestone. Nevertheless, there is still time until December 31st. Hey there, I'm Scott Milker. It held together even though we saw that banking regulators were closed on the weekend. Funds were not to their liking. Choke Point Operation 2.0 was an obvious crypto assault. Investigate. Everyone here need to don a tinfoil hat right about now. Because, technically speaking, Signature Bank was not bankrupt. There was also a little conversation between us about this. Given the importance of Signature Bank and the sheer number of documents going into it, I was confused about what had transpired, but I was relieved when it was finally closed. Surprisingly, though, it remained intact. They shut down the bank. Be on the lookout this weekend. It was an obvious attack. Even though there was no evidence of a major bank run at the signatory bank, the authorities still shut it down. However, there was no evidence that individuals were unable to withdraw their requested funds. Many Bitcoin users were losing money when they withdrew funds from Silicon Valley Bank and Silvergate, thus there was a genuine fear that it may fail. It is quite reasonable, regardless of how many people were taking money out of banks at that moment. This essentially blocked the final option that Bitcoin businesses had for. The failure of these 3 banks should not be interpreted as a declaration that the whole US Bitcoin economy is now unbanked. Think about it, there are thousands of banks, and every one of them had the same problems and was subject to the same treasury risk. The 3 that did not succeed in March, nevertheless, were all related to the Bitcoin industry. Because of the importance of these 3 banks to the room, it is worth repeating. When it came to delivering services to large businesses in this industry, they were the ones that kept everything running. Surprisingly, just 3 banks that have a concentration of cryptocurrencies have failed thus far. When people say things like the tinfoil hats are out, it's because everyone is a conspiracy theorist. Yes, beginning in 2020, at the point when the SEC's behavior and the real situation in the US were both criticized by everyone. This has always been our right prediction. Everyone activated XRP and Ripple, and I distinctly remember the dismissal of the lawsuit. They thought it had already been done. Even when Vitalik enabled Ripple for Ethereum maxes a few weeks or months later, a somewhat larger storyline arose, and we enthusiastically supported it. What on earth was going on? That was its essence, an assault against corruption. In the end, this is the most important thing. In the midst of building the biggest tokenization project ever using Avalanche, Jamie Dimon calls cryptocurrencies a scam. Vanguard does not allow its customers to access the Bitcoin ETF if they own a 10% stake in the two largest Bitcoin miners in the United States. It's interesting to notice that this dates back to December 13. Pay more attention to their actions than to what they say. At the same time that Jamie Dimon launched her anti-Bitcoin campaign, JP Morgan's cryptocurrency empire quadrupled in size. Seriously, this is so funny. Because of this, when we examine this situation closely, it's clear they're attempting to devastate the area by utilizing any means they can get their hands on, including regulators. Even Elizabeth Warren has joined the chorus of notable people who are speaking out against cryptocurrencies by joining the field. Their goal is to maintain control over Wall Street and the big banks as they continue to develop and play the monopoly game to their advantage. According to Jamie Dimon on Tomasi on January 17, this is a bogus statement from the mainstream media. Certain cryptocurrencies have practical uses, while others don't. The second one is also known as my pet rock, Bitcoin, or something along those lines. In some situations, it can be useful. Aside from it, though, individuals engage in commerce. I would be surprised if the regulators didn't hold hundreds of shares in JP Morgan. It's the most ridiculous element of the whole thing. The reason behind this is that JP Morgan has been the subject of many lawsuits. You should know that this bank handles more settlement sums than any other in the globe. Possible compensation amounts can be anywhere from $1 million to $20 million. Some people are extremely rich, worth nearly $1 billion, but they got there by manipulating commodities markets and other things that are, incidentally, quite important. However, this is not the only newsworthy event surrounding the settlement of a lawsuit between JP Morgan and the SPLC, which was announced when Nance paid a fine of $18 million. However, no one takes note when JP Morgan follows suit. January 16 came around. Just 2 days ago, $18 million was traded. Amidst the $4 billion in federal indictments, our CEO and CFO have now entered guilty pleas. This is the largest bank in the world, and the largest cryptocurrency exchange, so let's see how this $4 billion fine stacks up against a $18 million fine. You should keep in mind that the total value of all cryptocurrencies is just about $2 trillion. $4 billion, compared to $18 million for the largest bank in the nation. Can you kindly elaborate on the problems with these two images? No, it's not hard at all. Similar to a puppet master, JP Morgan is assuming the role of authoritative figure. They are still manipulating the market, as they have done with the gold and silver markets, and he is managing the situation, which is a significant concern. At this point in time, it is very amusing. We look at Operation Choke Point 2.0, because of this, though. We take a look at the Ripple and XRP scenario. By reviewing the most recent cases, including those against Coinbase, we can get a clear picture of the library's legal position and the nature of the current situation. The XRP community has responded with great venom because of this. Having said that, my deepest wish is that this film was entertaining for everyone. Please subscribe and like as always. See you soon, bye.